Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. I just came on to just talk about a couple things. First and foremost, welcome to the Devon A. Morris call-in show, the Unfiltered call-in show, that is. And one of the things is that I had a couple people ask me some questions today because I do have a class. And since I have a class, I wanted to talk about a couple things and explain something a little bit more in depth. Now, the class that I have today is actually a product owner class. And one of the things is that with the product owner class, there are various questions that I asked. And one of the things that happens that's unique about the product owner class is that there's usually more people that are not product owners that are showing up for the class. More people who have that really aren't involved in the process of going from a thought or an idea all the way down to actually having user stories or requirements per se. So I said to myself, let's jump on real quick and talk about a couple things that's really, really important. And I make sure a slide or two just to kind of walk through it and talk about it and ultimately use this for, future classes maybe. I'm going to go ahead and pull up something in just a moment. Hopefully everyone has had a wonderful past 2 weeks, but this is just something that I want to kind of put out there and make sure is available for people, in the future. So one of the things that we always talk about, that I will be talking about tomorrow, which may bring some level of confusion for a few people, is really focused in on how I think a product owner should be thinking, right? And one of the ways that people classically think about the product owner is in a similar manner to how a project manager may think. Now, if you've had any association with project management, you have heard of this thing called the triple constraint, okay? And the triple constraint classically is made up of scope, as you see at the top of this triangle. And then on a lower right-hand side, you see time. And then you see this one on the lower left-hand side, which realistically is cost. But for a lot of Agile teams, that just boils down to resources. So cost is really what it should be. But for most Agile teams, that really boils down to resources. Now, I'm going to explain that just a little bit more. See, resources are the primary cost in most teams that involve human beings. Agile teams involve a few people. Those few people have associated bill rates, salaries, whatever it is. And the good thing about most Agile teams, if you have a fairly consistent team, you end up having a fairly consistent burn rate. So for me, I have found that if I have an Agile team, 9 people in terms of development team, and then a Scrum Master and a product owner, usually from sprint to sprint to sprint to sprint. Or even if you would just say from week to week to week to week, forget sprints, those sprints out the window if we're talking about Agile in general, right? Because every Agile framework doesn't use sprints. The key statement is that there's not this ramp up period, right? So with some other efforts, it may begin with a fewer resources, which means less cost, but then there's a ramp up that happens over time as you gain the bulk of resources that are going to actually do the work. And then there's a ramp up and then there's a ramp down, right? But when it comes to many frameworks associated with Agile, not all of them, right? Not all of them, right? But when it comes to many frameworks associated with Agile, the situation you run into is one of you have the same team members working from week to week or sprint to sprint, which means your burn over time will be fairly similar. Minus a holiday here, minus somebody going on a vacation there, it's probably going to be plus or minus 10, maybe 20%. Now, I'm not sure, right? It just really depends on your environment, right? Now, the other thing that could have an impact on cost, thinking classic projects and project management, is if you got to buy something, right? If you have to buy something, then it turns into another big bump in terms of cost, right? So, for example, if we had to procure licenses for something and we had to procure them in the third week, well, in the third week, we see a bump. Maybe that's the second sprint. I don't know. But in that second sprint, we see a bump in terms of cost, which again is not the same as resources, considering any kind of money that we spend is going to have a resource burn. But again, it goes back to there could be a bump that would happen. But in general, for the majority of Agile teams, we're talking about a fairly consistent week to week set of resources. So the burn, well, when I say burn, I mean the amount of money, the expenses that are happening due to the resources, putting in time in, working hour to hour to hour, or getting paid whatever salary they get paid, right? So when we think resources classically, that's all we normally run into on many, many, many Agile efforts. But it is really cost that we're talking about here. So really with that triple constraint, you're really dealing with scope, time, cost / resources. Now, the big deal as a product owner is I'm kind of concerned about this heart that's in the middle. You see that heart that's in the middle? The 80-20 rule, right? And anybody that's been around may understand Pareto's law that out of 80% of the effort, you get the majority of out of 20% of the effort, you get the majority of the value. So 80% of the effort actually goes toward less of the value, right? So it takes 20% to get the most of the value. Okay, great. So if you think about it, there's studies that show that 80% of requested features are rarely, never, or sometimes used. That means that there's 20% that's always or often used. And if you look at usage, that would say that you're getting the majority of the value from the 20%. Great, that makes sense. And you can easily think about, any program you use, right? Minus apps, because a lot of times an app is focused on one thing, right? Just one thing, maybe a few other things, right? But if you think a general program, a general piece of software, your kitchen, right? There's probably about 20% of the items in your kitchen that you use most often. There's probably 20% of the features associated with your car, your vehicle that you use most often, right? There's probably 20% of just about any program you utilize where you get the most value. Where you use these 20% features, you use most of the time, okay? So really that 80-20, kind of could be a 70-30, 60-40, but normally it's just pointing toward the fact that out of the small amount of work, you get the majority of the value, okay? Now, that being said, as a product owner, and I'm working on a product owner class now, that's where I drive or where I focus at in terms of return on investment, just period. In terms of ROI, okay, now let me back up for a second, right? Here's the deal. When I say ROI, I'm referring to something very specific. Because as a product owner, I am classically accountable for maximizing the associated outcomes. Now, when I say outcomes, I'm kind of drawing a line in the sand, right? Because I know that if I think about a SIPOC or just most other things, I have an input, right? And the input is whatever, it could be requirements, it could be whatever things you need, right? The raw materials, right? And then I'm going to have some activities, some processes. I'm going to do something to those inputs to transform them, right? And I'm ultimately transforming them into those outputs. But when I say outcomes, I am referring to the impact that the produced outputs will have on the users. Okay? That's very clear. So, as a product owner, I'm accountable for maximizing the outcomes, not necessarily the outputs. Because I can be in a situation, right? Really, I could be in a true situation where I produce as many outputs as possible, right? And if I produce hundreds and hundreds of outputs and they don't result in an impact to the users in some kind of way, then it's a concern for me. It's a concern because realistically, I haven't truly moved the needle. Okay. And if I'm talking return on investment, if there's a certain amount of cost or expenses associated with something, I probably at least want to break even. I probably at least want to get back the money that we spent. Okay. All right. So, but really, I want to get more than that back because if I'm going to dedicate something, then I got to get something in return. Otherwise, if I'm just going to break even, there's no point in doing it, right? And so when you start thinking about return on investment, it comes in many forms, but it classically comes from, market value, capability building, risk reduction is the classic value sources that I can think of off the top of my head. And there are more, but those are the classic three that you'll see. But that can lead to, revenue being produced, or that same thing could lead to cost savings, right? Cost savings. Most of the time when you're doing an internal effort, a lot of times it's about cost savings. If you have some impact to the customers in some kind of way, it might be revenue, it might be customer retention, it might be something like we want to see them use more capabilities within the thing that we built, right? Don't know, right? But the idea is that it drives towards some return on investment, and return on investment is a very, very generic term. Now, as I sit back and think about it, okay, I want to find that perfect, that 80-20, that thing where I can start to work through maybe my product backlog, prioritize things in a way that's going to help us maximize the outcomes. Get the right outputs, get the right combinations of things together. So, and then when I produce those outputs, they drive the appropriate outcomes is how I'm thinking. Now, that's great. Okay, that's something to think about. But then it takes us back to what I'm dealing with here. Okay, as a product owner, I must be concerned about the triple constraint. I must be concerned about the triple constraint. As I talk here, I see that we do have people that are live with me right now. So do me a favor. If you like this topic, give me a thumbs up. But if you have any questions, I would love for you to join me. Take a look in the chat, in the comments. You will see the actual link to join me live. Jump into the green room and we can go from there. But let me continue the conversation. So it's my job to maximize those outcomes. And as I take a look here and I dive deeper, I must be concerned about the constraints. the constraints is really super important for me as a product owner. Now, the way that I feel is most of the times I see cost and resources as being two things that are not as flexible, that have a definite limit to them. So most of the times within most efforts that I've ever been involved in, the place that we ultimately end up negotiating at is on scope, is on the requirements, is on the user stories. Does that make sense? So most of you all in the room, well, let me ask the question. Have you ever experienced an effort where as you get closer to the end, you decide to dump requirements? You decide to not do some requirements because you're running out of time and the resources haven't been adjusted. You still want to meet that date. And if you have experienced that, I would love for you to just give me a oh yeah, something like that. Yes. Throw that in the chat for me if you've had that experience, right? Because I firmly believe that most of the time you end up negotiating on scope. That's just truth, right? So the beauty, one of the most beautiful things about Agile in general, or at least being a product owner, is you can start negotiating on scope in the very beginning, right? But it's easier for you to negotiate on scope in the beginning if you have some idea what the most valuable scope is. Because one of the reasons why you want to prioritize is because I kind of understand a simple philosophy. If we're not going to get everything done, it would be amazing if we can put the things that are most important, that are most valuable, that are going to drive the most in terms of outcomes toward the top. Because if I'm going to spend more time on something, it makes sense for me to spend time on the top things. And hopefully those are the most valuable things that are toward the absolute top. So now, as we prioritize, we're putting ourselves in a position where if we do need to negotiate on scope, now we are getting rid of scope that is not going to drive as many outcomes, right? Now, I get that there's necessities and I get that there's things you gotta have that may not be the greatest. But I got someone calling in on the line. So I'm going to pause that conversation and I would love to just bring them on in and I'll continue this in a moment. But let's bring them on in and let's have part of this conversation. And you know what? I'm going to turn this into an interview style. I'm going to assign them to a guest and I'm going to say, welcome, welcome, welcome to the show, right? So you threw your name up there, Prince. I've seen you in class on more than one occasion. My question for you, first of all, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I don't think you
Thank you.
believed that I
Thank
had
you.
a show, did you? You ain't believe me,
Yeah.
did you? So what's your question?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
If you are starting Scrum Master, I don't know. I don't know what you are talking about. I just joined right now.
You know what? That's okay. I was talking about product owner, but you're
Yes.
part of that class. But ask your question about Scrum Master. We can deviate.
As a new Scrum Master with all these CSM and now possibly the product owner,
Mm-hmm.
how is the job market?
You know what, man? The truth is, the job market is not great, but it's coming back. So it's one of those things where what has happened at this point is many organizations decided to shed a lot of weight in order to survive. Okay. And in their survival, it was because maybe they weren't selling as much, maybe they weren't able to produce as much. They had a direct impact due to COVID. Now, with that being said, as we ramp back up, as organizations, businesses are opening, as businesses are getting more revenue coming back in, guess what they're doing? Hiring people. Hiring people. right? I was just talking to someone in class yesterday, who had been in one of my hardship classes prior, and she just got a job offer yesterday. She told me
Oh,
about the interview. She's over in ATL in Atlanta, and she just got a job offer yesterday, and she accepted the offer, and so I'm super excited for her. I have someone who I have their family, a family member in class, and he showed up in class, and he said that, you know, we've helped his family out a whole lot because several members of his family have gone through the CSM, CSPO, and now have jobs within the area. And they've definitely focused on helping each other get to that place, right? So
yes.
the job market is coming back. And so there are more and more organizations that are having opportunities out there. And the thing that's interesting is I was I just was pretending to go do a job search, right? Really. I've been pretending that in the past few weeks, right? And I see more and more jobs. So I did that back in January. I didn't see as many jobs, but for me, I don't expect to see a lot of jobs in January because normally, a lot of organizations I've been a part of, they start their new fiscal year in January, and then around February, March is when they start hiring folks because they're just kind of getting themselves back, in the rhythm of what they used to do. So I see the job market coming back. Now, one of the things that I did, Prince, is right when COVID started, back in March of last year, my mantra to everyone was get your certifications now. Because when the job market comes back, there's going to be a lot of competition. So now you have a CSM and you have that CSPO. So it becomes you have to now pursue what you want, pursue what you desire. You have to start networking and meeting people. So now, let's say you got both of these certifications. What else are you doing to help position yourself, right? So people I know are going to conferences. Why would you go to a conference? A virtual conference, you still can meet people. Why would you go to a meetup? I mean, in today's world, I have done meetups in Washington State. I've done meetups in, let's see, California. I've attended meetups in New York. I've attended events in India. I've attended events that was based in Africa. So now, since we are mostly stuck in the house, the question becomes people have gotten used to this virtual thing. And they've gotten used to it on a level that didn't exist prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, I couldn't get people to join me virtually. I couldn't make it happen. But now organizations are saying, you know what? Guess what? We're not even going back to that old model. We're going to stay virtual. Another guy that I know helped me out with the show. He had a job with someone else, and then when I saw him 2 weeks ago, he said, I switched jobs. So if he had a job that he got while we was doing the show, and then 2 weeks ago switched jobs, then there's opportunities out there. Okay? So the question becomes, you looking for that opportunity and not giving up looking for that opportunity. Nobody can really take something away from you that you don't have. So if it's me, I'm continuing to dogmatically go after whatever it is that I want. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Now, a piece of advice that I gave a while ago is if I'm anybody, the places I'm looking for is big companies. Why am I looking at big companies? Because big companies have a tendency to have no problem bringing in people that's newer because normally they have other experienced people there that can help. Not to mention, when you go to a newer company, you're likely not the only one. So you got some people you can bounce ideas off of, people who you can just talk to in general. When times get tough, you always need somebody to talk to. So me, I am thinking to myself, let me take my job hunt and let me scrum my job hunt. Let me use Scrum to help me find my next opportunity. So what prevents you from using Scrum to help find your next opportunity? There's many people that don't think about using the actual tool itself. And my philosophy is, if you use Scrum to find your Scrum job, then that's an amazing thing. I use Scrum to help me get better at doing Scrum. Back in the day when I wasn't as confident. So I would be on the hunt. I would be treating it like it's a job to find a job, but I'll be scrumming through it, right? Every single week I have a new goal. Maybe my goal will be updating all the things that are connected to me one week, right? Maybe that very first goal is let me update all things that are connected to me. Like, let me just make sure my LinkedIn is good. Let me make sure my resume is good. Let me make sure this is good, that is good. Just everything that's good in my circle. And maybe that's what I do one week. And then the next week, I do something different. I would just be focusing on different things that I have control over. So when that opportunity happens, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get in the game and I'm ready to go. And that's what you need to be doing right now, because you can't force somebody to give you a job. You can't do that. But what you can do is make it so they regret not hiring you. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
So now what you going to do tomorrow?
I'll be in class.
No. Don't give me that class mess. What you going to do on Friday? Come on. Tomorrow is Thursday. So what you going to do on Friday?
Definitely I will brush my CV. The resume, I have to make it look attractive.
Uh-huh.
And
No. What you gonna do? What you gonna do is you're gonna start sprint 1. That's what you're gonna do.
Yes.
You'll come up with some goal, and you're gonna use that goal to help you move further.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
You're gonna run a 1-week sprint, start with that sprint goal, decide what you're gonna do for the week, and you're gonna make it happen. So you done been in my Scrum class. Let's stop making excuses. You've been in my Scrum class. Let's use the process to help you. Make that goal, then determine what you're going to do to meet that goal. I just brought up helping out with your CV. No. You should already been doing that. So now take that first week, get your stuff together, get your house together. So then your foundation is right. So then if somebody came to you and said, I'm ready to give you a job right now, I'm ready to give you an interview on Friday, you're not ready to go. I need you to be ready to go when they knock on your door. When they put you in the game, you need to be ready to go. Does that make sense?
That's very true. That's very true.
So now you need to be spending every single moment you can, preparing yourself, putting yourself out there. Because if you're not ready when they come. And you don't know when they're going to come. You don't know when they're going to show up. You don't know when somebody's going to have a conversation with you and say, you know what? I like this guy. I really like this guy. You understand? I mean, shoot, the second opportunity I got when I went from Virginia to Texas, it was word of mouth, man. It was word of mouth. It was word of mouth. I kid you not. It was word of mouth, right? If somebody I worked with recommended me to the people that was looking for people, that was word of mouth, literally word of mouth. A guy had probably, let's just say, 3 exchanges with while we were together at the same job. Maybe 3 exchanges with. But you know what? I was hungry. He knew I was hungry. He knew I was ready. I'm telling you, he knew I was ready. And he called me up prior and said, Devon, I know you don't want to leave where you're at, but I just want you to just listen. And you know what I said? You know, I respect you. We've had good exchanges. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to listen.
Yeah.
Man, I got that job that day. What you talking about? They called me. They called me on the phone. They called me on the phone. I had an interview, and later on they said, "You know what? We want you to come on in." And I'm like,
Wow.
and I just, and the worst part about it is I just been there that weekend. I just went down to San Antonio that weekend because I had a grandmother. My great grandmother had just went into hospice. So you see how that works? You see how the universe conspires, right? I'm sitting up
Energy.
here.
Yes.
I just went there to see my great grandmother. She just got in the hospice, right? They
Yeah.
called me, say she may go. She may go. The next thing you know, I'm getting an interview in the same city. They hired me that day. 2 weeks later, I'm in San Antonio, man. 2 weeks
Wow.
later, I'm in San Antonio. And again, I didn't apply for that. Let me repeat this to you, man. I did not apply for this job. You understand?
Word of mouth. Yeah.
I did not go to a recruiter or anything like that. Somebody who knew me, who I worked with for a hot second. For a hot second, right? I'm not talking
Yes.
about I sat with this guy and talked every single day. I know his exact name, man. I know his exact name. Respect him all day, every day. And he was like, "Hey, we doing this over here. Come on through." I'm like, and it happened, right? I got,
It does.
and here's
It
the
does.
deal, man. I got to spend, while I was there for the next 6 months, my great grandmother didn't even pass away or anything like that. I got to spend a tremendous amount of time with her. I got to go visit her twice a week, minimum. You understand? And that was really special to me, man. And it all happened
Absolutely does.
because I was
Yeah.
ready. I was ready.
Yeah.
My resume
Yeah.
was ready to go. Everything was tidied up. I've never been right now I'm in a position where my resume look like crap. If I showed you my resume right now, it's not updated. But, I guess it's updated because it says Bearded Eagle on it. But other than that, I'm always ready, man. I'm always ready. So then I ask you, if I'm always ready and I'm not looking, why aren't you always ready?
I don't want to use the word try,
Yeah,
but
no, don't, no, we're not using those words. We're going to
yes,
make it
those words
happen.
we don't use. Those words we don't use. Just like I send you that text message about the COVID assistance.
Yeah,
Of course, I don't want the class for free,
yeah,
but of course, because some of us are going through the same hardship,
yeah.
I would wish you could extend a little bit of
Well,
the courtesy call, and we could continue also joining the class as we prepare ourselves, as you are saying.
that's the reason why we did the class for 250.
Yes.
We actually last year we did we did classes for free last year, like
Wow.
100% free, literally.
That's a blessing right there.
Yeah, we did classes 100% free. We called the Black Lives Matter classes, and Scrum Alliance, hats off to Scrum Alliance, completely supported it, right?
Wow.
Because there's fees that we got to pay in the background, and Scrum
Yes.
Alliance completely supported the Black Lives Matter classes that we did, and we trained at least 150 people last year.
Wow. That's impressive.
For nothing, for nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, you had to be black to get into that one. That's
That's
the truth,
impressive.
right? And then so what I said this year is we'll do classes for about 250. Make the fee really low to allow people to get in because I do believe that you need to have some skin in the game.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
when
Yes.
I took my certification back in 2005, and I'm telling you right now, I paid $1,250 to $1,400 in 2005. Okay, and it
Yes.
was in downtown Chicago at a hotel. That hotel cost me $200 to $300 a night.
Wow.
But let me tell you something.
Hmm.
Could I say to you, as a certified Scrum trainer, that is paid well for me? Yes, sir.
And we're happy for you because you're extending the same a little bit to some of us.
Yeah, but man, let me tell you something, man. I actually had a woman yesterday. No, yeah, yesterday.
Hmm.
Yesterday, in the CSM class, that literally said to me, and nobody's ever said this to me. She said to me, "Once I get a job, I'd like to pay you back the difference."
That's very impressive. and that
Now,
is
now I felt some kind of way. I
yeah,
felt some kind
yeah,
of way.
yes,
You understand?
yes,
I've
yeah,
never, not one time. The free classes that we had, nobody said that. You understand? So
yes,
now I have her saying this, right? And I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. And you know what? I
hmm
said to her, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pay it forward to someone else.
that's exactly what I wanted to tell you. Like, if you have all these alumni, people who you have trained,
Mm-hmm.
and we have some people need some help.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Those
yeah.
alumni, me being one of them, in future we can be like, how many people do you have who cannot afford? Because we have these, we can support one or two other people.
Well, that would be great because guess
Yeah.
what? The idea is that and I would love for alumni in the future to help pay for a scholarship that can
Yes.
pay for
For
people
other
who
people.
really want to join us and actually
Yes.
help pay for that and put it in a
Yes.
fund so and then we can help other people who really truly need the help. Man, let me
Yeah.
tell you something, man. I've had people, man, literally give me fake termination letters
hmm
to get in the hardship class just because they want a lower fee.
Yes.
And it's the
It's very
same.
possible with
It's
human
the
beings.
same. And I'm not really. I'm like, just give me any story and you in. I'm not even checking
Yeah.
the stories. But when I
hmm
see you bluntly, like literally bluntly send me something that like five other people have sent me, the exact same thing, it's no
Yeah.
different, and you
Yes.
can't change any information on it
No.
whatsoever to make it look
hmm
different, and it's the same exact thing,
Yeah.
it's not,
It,
it ruins my heart, man. It
yeah.
really ruins my heart.
It beats down the logic behind the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
so we'll see how that works because I would love to be able to do that and have alumni help other alumni or kids or something, right?
Yeah. Something. Yeah.
People who are truly worthy of it. I would love to
Yes.
see that kind of thing happen because again, people are literally getting it, going through this program and going out making six figures.
That's very true. My process is before I get my stuff together
Mm-hmm.
and before I get to where we are going, which is the job market, of course,
Yeah.
I would like to have as many certificates as possible
Well,
because
yeah.
that's how you keep yourself aware of what is happening to the market.
Well, I would say to you, okay, I understand. I would say to you, it's probably more important for you to go deep on some of those certifications.
Yes,
Not to just have as many as possible. I mean, that's
but
cool,
God did. Yeah.
but go deeper on some of those certifications because it's the depth that somebody's going to truly hire you on,
Yes.
right? That's the
hmm
that's the key to it. It's the depth. The depth is what you want, right? And
Yes.
the problem is you can have the CSM forever and a day, but most people are going to ask you, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with it? And if you
Yep.
can tell them what you're doing with it, you just beat half the planet already. So
That's true.
I literally want you to not just get them, but find a way to go deep with them. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So it's fun times, man. I mean, it's just one of those things where you know, I'm trying to figure it out like everybody else is trying to figure it out. And all we really try to do, pretty much at Bearded Eagle or what I do with DM Limited, is just do what's right.
That's
Do
very
what's right.
true, and that's exactly what you are doing. We are trying to awaken us.
Well, we're there to be awakened, man. I'm just trying to do
Uh,
my part in it, man. That's all I'm trying to do. I may not be the true change agent, but maybe I spark the brain that makes
you
the
remember we were
change.
trying to create a login, not knowing that the customer doesn't care about that.
I how it was in class. I went off, man. I went off, and I'm gonna tell people why I
Customer
went
doesn't
off.
care about login.
I went off. I went off, man. I'm sorry. I just went off because it's not reality, right? I mean, it's not reality, right? But you understood what
Customer
I was
doesn't care
saying.
about the
Okay,
application at all.
everybody, let me explain this to you, right? Let me explain this to you. And this has to do with the class we had today. And you tell everybody if I'm lying or not, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here's the deal, right? we sitting up there, we're building a release, okay? And regardless of what the thing is focused on, let's just say we're building a release for an application for a dog whistle, okay? For a dog whistle, just so
Yes.
we don't get anybody in trouble, just for a dog whistle. So we're building a brand new application for a dog whistle. And so they're working as a team and they're building this thing for a dog whistle. And the first release, they have a login, they have an account. No dog whistle, man. No dog whistle. Like there's no dog whistle. Like when I say to you, there's no dog whistle, they have no plans to
Yeah.
even teach a person how to whistle, man. They don't have anything like that whatsoever in this release.
They're
And
not
I
even
have to look
buying
at
the
him and say,
whistle itself.
would you even buy this yourself? Would you even use this yourself? I'm having a fit. I'm just going off on them because I'm saying this makes no sense, man. It makes no
Yeah.
sense. You're not going to get no return on investment from telling people, please log in. Please log in. And when you log in, you won't be able to use the dog whistle because we haven't made the dog whistle yet. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all understand what I'm saying? For real.
I do.
He understands now, but did I have a fit? Did I have a fit? Yes or no?
No, seriously, like the way you brought it up, everybody was like, yeah, by the way, why are we making an application to log in? And the customer has not even seen why he's supposed to create an account.
No. So if you understand what I mean, please throw in the chat the words, the letters ROI. Literally throw in the chat the letters ROI. Because it made no sense. When I tell you it made no sense, it made no sense. Now understand, y'all. Please understand that. You tell me if this is true or not. We literally spent the entire morning, people. We spent the entire morning talking about the user. Like
Yes.
we talked about understanding the opportunity. We was talking about the user all morning. Literally. I even had somebody argue with me about the fact that was out of scope. But that's irrelevant. We was talking about the user, man. Literally the user the whole morning. And when we get to the afternoon, it just all dropped out their brains. It literally completely dropped out their brains. Like poof, like some smoke just all went away. I mean, when I say it was ridiculous, I was halfway embarrassed. But did I not go off?
You did.
Did I not go off? Because I'm like, for real? See, and this is the problem. When you're in class, people are not spending their money. They spending somebody else's money is what they're doing, right? So now if that was your money, would you do that? You know you wouldn't do that, man.
I think just like you said, it's the depth, not
Yes.
the certification. That's the point that most of us are lacking.
Yeah. And that's the key. And that's the reason why I say the depth, right? Because if you haven't had exposure to being in a place where you put it on the line, and then you're asking for somebody to come by and make sure that you get your money back. If I'm selling ice cream cones, right? The money I spend for those ice cream cones, I want to get that money back. I actually want to make more money than what I spent on, right? But if I'm gonna sell ice cream cones in the neighborhood, I probably don't want to do it in the middle of winter time, right? It don't make no sense, right? Or I don't want to say to people, look, I'm selling ice cream cones, but you know what you can do? You come in and look at my drawing of ice cream cones, and then come back for the future for the ice cream cones. That's what y'all did. That's literally what y'all did. I mean, it's crazy. I'm over like, you know, and here I am. What happened the whole morning? I'm like, what happened the whole morning? Why did it not come through? Because we spent the whole morning on it, for real. So, look, the point is, if you are, right, concerned about product ownership, product management, you have to think about return on investment.
Yeah.
You have to. If you are trying to be an entrepreneur, or if you are managing a department, there is something you expect to get in return for what the resources are doing, right? You own any kind
Yep.
of company, you going let's say you're gonna go get married, you got a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, you expect to get some return on your investment. I mean,
Yes.
who don't expect to get some return on their investment? And so it's like, but what's gonna be interesting is tomorrow, right? What's gonna be interesting is tomorrow because we still got a lot of work to do because we're a little bit behind. So we still got a
Yep.
lot of work to do. So it's gonna be even more interesting tomorrow. So that being said, that was hilarious today. I cannot beat that, right? I cannot beat that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because I wouldn't have brought
Yeah.
it up, but you did bring it
Yeah.
up. I was very sad when that happened. I was shocked and surprised. That's the reason why I have to come in and check on y'all after 10 minutes because otherwise y'all just go in a direction that just don't make no sense. And then we get to the whole end and the whole exercise you did was wrong. And I'm just like, oh,
Yep.
why didn't I go
You,
check on it?
you you are busy creating user IDs and passwords.
That's it. And nothing to give the user whatsoever. Like, we ain't got no ice cream cones for you, but we got a user password for you to be
Yep.
able to log in. Come on, man.
Yeah. And then you
That's
can
not what we
find out
want.
what we have.
No, that's not what we want. That's not what we want. So hopefully, do you have any other questions?
Uh, yes.
Okay. You got a lot of questions. Come on with it.
Uh, I'm still in the COVID because we're still in the COVID season.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a question, it's a suggestion that you rethink
Yeah.
about the support that you are doing to the COVID affected people
Yeah. What about it?
because we don't want to be left out.
Okay.
Yeah, so just think about it. You may not have an answer now, but I know you have it.
You know I have it. Why don't you have it? Why don't you have the answer, man? Why do I have to have the answer?
I have the answer as a student that
Oh, okay.
I will
Now,
be
now
getting
let's know.
another class.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, man. Because we're probably gonna have another challenge come up when we're gonna talk about agile careers. Because we did that. You just be missing out on stuff, man. We did a challenge, a 5-day challenge on getting your perfect agile job, and we
I
actually had
joined the first
somebody.
challenge. The first challenge, I don't know, it was about, I was for the first challenge when you were
Yeah,
talking with your wife.
yeah, no, that ain't it.
Yeah, but I
So
know there is another one that was, I think, last week or 2 weeks.
no. We
Mm.
had a challenge a while ago. We had a challenge. We had a challenge about finding your right agile career.
I think I
Probably
was in
2 or 3 weeks,
that. I
right?
think I was in that.
And if you was in that, we've actually had people who actually came to that challenge and just the challenge alone, which was free, and found a job.
Oh,
Yeah, and found a job, literally.
or maybe I'm talking of a different
Yeah,
challenge,
you're
but I
talking
know
about
I
something
was
different,
that
the
that.
challenge that we
Yeah.
had, people actually
Mhm.
found a job from that free challenge, literally.
Yes.
And so it's just so it's I don't know what else we will do, but we've actually done a lot to be truthful. Like we've
And
done
we
a lot
appreciate
as
that.
an organization, right?
We appreciate that because I've been checking your stuff on Facebook,
Yeah.
and it is impressive that you are doing some good work. Of course, sacrificing and dedicating your time, and
Oh
time
yeah,
is the
yeah,
most expensive
yeah.
commodity. You can't get
Well,
it back.
well, you know what, man? I'll put it to you this way: when we started Bearded Eagle, um, hey man, we was doing free classes, you know. And truth is, I've had people come back to me, you know, yeah, from 2013. They took a free
Yep.
class with us, and
I have a policy. I have a policy that if you want to make money, you
mhm.
must start by giving your services for free. That's how you make money.
Well, yeah, in many cases you can do that, but you probably should be paid for your services at some point. Otherwise, your kids end
Yeah,
up
at some
hungry
point. Yes.
and your family end up
Yeah.
hungry and everything else. So we
Yes.
we we we, we do want to get paid for our services, right? Because otherwise, then you can't provide the service, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
day,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
part of the reason why we can provide what we do provide is because we make enough to be able to eat. But if we wasn't eating and we had to go find jobs ourselves, then we wouldn't have time to do it. You know, the stuff that we create is based off of the support that we get from this community. And in terms of getting support from this community, we appreciate it, and we will always give back to this community. That goes
And we
without
do
saying.
appreciate it. We do
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, and nobody got to tell us, nobody got to ask us. I don't really care what anybody say about us. People are upset of us. People are really upset at us in our community for doing classes for 250. People are upset at us for that, right?
Yeah.
But really, who gonna do something to me? Ain't nobody gonna do nothing to me.
Yep.
I'm running a business and I can offer things at whatever prices I choose to. I don't
That's
have no
true.
boss. I don't have nobody that can tell me no. And if I feel like doing something, we're just going to do it, right? If it's the right
Yep.
thing, we're just going to do the right thing. And I have had somebody in every, more than one person, in every single hardship class that we let in for absolutely free. Literally, in every single hardship class. We've had
Yes.
few people in every single one of them that we've let in for free, right? And in letting them in for free, they've done, a few of them have really done something amazing with it. I mean,
Yes.
really. But their stories is amazing though. Their
Yeah.
stories is amazing. It's not like they just ain't got a job. They got
No,
all these
it's
other
totally
things have happened
different.
too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's one of those things where I do have a wholehearted appreciation for it because at the end of the day, I could be in the same situation.
Yep.
No big deal. So you good now, right?
Oh, I can't wait for the next class, the COVID next class.
The COVID next class.
We are two
Hello,
students
hello,
here. We are two
hello.
students in that class.
I got two students. Okay, good, good.
You didn't see me.
I think
I
the
didn't.
light
I
is
didn't.
too.
I see you. How
Hi,
are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
have a question actually.
Okay.
I'm just not sure if I want to be a Scrum Master. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I should not switch careers. I'm good where I am.
What are you doing right now?
Healthcare.
Could you could you use Agile slash Scrum in healthcare?
Yeah, actually, I spoke to your wife, and she thought that was a great idea because you guys work with a lot of companies healthcare companies like Kindred Hospital.
Okay.
And she said that's a great idea that you actually in healthcare. But I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do this or not. So I just don't want to spend a lot of my money doing certification if I don't
Well,
want,
I wouldn't
if
spend a
not,
lot
I
of
don't
money
have a
neither.
passion for it. If I don't have passion for it, I mean, it's like it sounds like a great idea, but once I'm in class, I'm like, oh, maybe this is not for me.
Well, let me offer two pieces of news for everybody. So, first thing, let me say this. Lizzie and I are no longer married. We've been divorced for a long time, but we still run a business together. So,
Oh,
just
that's
making sure everybody knows that we haven't gotten rid of our business. We've been divorced for about 4 years. So, but we still have a business together and we're still amazing friends. So, that hasn't
good.
changed what we do together. Now, in terms of you, my statement to you is more of this. What do you do in healthcare?
A nurse,
Nice.
Now, you're a
mhm.
nurse, okay?
Yeah,
Now, here's how I would do it. Here's how I would think about it. I have worked with hospital
yeah.
organizations, but inside of the headquarters of the organizations. And they build things for nurses and doctors and staff in general. So, my question for you is this: with the Scrum certification, could you start looking for opportunities that are more inside of the organization and not on the ground working with patients?
I think it's quite possible, yeah.
So that's the first place I will go because the
Yeah,
one thing that the IT people don't have that are
yeah.
deeper in the organization, the one thing that they don't have is knowledge that you have in terms of being a nurse, in terms
Hmm.
of being a resource that is moving forward with
Yeah,
having understanding what's happening on a regular basis, right?
yeah.
Um, you have organizations like CVS, Walgreens, that would be looking for people like you
Yes.
because they are involved in healthcare. So, my statement to you is start thinking about taking your healthcare experience and using that as your expertise and Scrum to support it. Okay?
Okay.
You understand where I'm
Got
coming
it.
from? Because
Yes.
what I don't want you to do is throw away what you know really know how to do, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that you have to understand in you knowing this is stuff that none of those IT people can bring to the table.
Got it.
You can be a SME, you can be a subject matter expert in that arena because you have on the ground experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I
if
see.
I'm you, I'm going to look for opportunities at healthcare organizations, pharmaceutical organizations, organizations that value nurse experience, but I'm not on the ground being a nurse.
I see. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Hmm.
That way you can use your Scrum knowledge with the other knowledge that you've gained over time. And then you're not
Yeah.
in the day to day dealing with the stuff that you would be on the ground with nurses. This is advice I give people all the time because it only makes sense. You should never, well, my thought process is you should never throw away all of your past experience just to begin something brand new unless you absolutely have to. And in this
Yes.
situation, I do not believe that you absolutely have to. Just
I
remember,
see. Yeah.
every organization, a lot of people be trying to get into IT. Everybody got some IT.
Yeah.
Fashion, the military, various parts of the government, non for profits, again, healthcare, right?
Yes.
General software. Just everybody has IT. So why not work in an IT shop that focuses on helping nurses?
Yep. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, so I think your job search needs to change a little bit, is what I would do. And for anybody that is listening to this or will view this later, truth is they will view this later, right? Your experience matters.
It
Your
does.
experience really, really matters. And when you have experience in a particular area, boy, it's so much. It's super valuable to people that have never done that kind of work. That have
True. That's
never
true.
done that kind of work. I wish somebody would have gave me that advice a long time ago because I would have loved to have done Scrum in an organization that deals with psychology, like patients that are having, mental health issues, right? Some place where I did work for before I
Yeah.
became a career changer and got into IT because I have a psychology degree. And in having that
Oh,
psychology
wow.
degree and I was doing
Yeah.
in-home counseling and all these other kind of things, I would love to have done work there. And if I would have done work there, I probably would have enjoyed my journey in IT. I probably would even enjoy my Scrum journey even more by doing that kind of work because it would have been more purposeful for me. It'd have been more valuable for me, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's easy. That's easy. Look at that. Look at that. Here, you see me? I'm knocking out two people's questions in one household. I couldn't hit a better home run than that, could I?
You're doing great. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
No problem, no problem. Any more questions?
Prince, you have any more questions? Not from me. You
Okay,
have
well,
any
no
questions
problem. Well,
for
you
Mr.
are so
Nicholas?
very welcome. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Prince, you're all right then. What kind of shirt you got on, man? Let me see your shirt. What kind of shirt you got?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin? Come
Yes.
on, man. Wisconsin, of all places, that's a Big Ten school.
I want to wear a Kenyan one next time
Okay,
we
please
are
wear a
in
Kenyan
contact.
one. You just wore.
I will.
I went to a Big Ten school too. I went to University of Illinois, man. And here you gonna put the University of Wisconsin on your chest, man. You know what, man, Prince? I don't know if I'm talking to you tomorrow. When you come to class,
Thank you.
I'm gonna ignore you. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ignore you. I'm gonna look the other way when you look at me. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right. Thank you, Devon. We do
No,
appreciate so very
thank you,
much.
man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Have a good one, okay?
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Excellent. That was excellent. That was a good time. And that was a good time because it just was a good time. I actually enjoyed that. But I normally keep this thing to about an hour. But I'm not going to do that right now. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and continue having the conversation that we were having because I'd like to finish the conversation that I was having. Remember, I was talking about this triple constraint here. Okay? And this triple constraint is obviously super important. But where I was going with it when you talk about scope, time, resources / cost is this is just one area that a product owner needs to talk about, that a product owner needs to be concerned with, okay? Because realistically, where you need to go is you need to take all three of those things and wrap them up into constraints because they're all simply just that, constraints. And since they are constraints, one of the things that you can do is you got to find a way to balance your constraints without sacrificing quality while maximizing value, maximizing the return on investment, maximizing outcomes. That's what I wanted to end it with when I was having a conversation with you earlier. So what I'll do right now is I'll leave that as our time. And I will say to you, this has been a pleasure. What is going to happen is I am grabbing a calendar right now so I can look. Couple weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, on a Wednesday, we will do this again. So our next show will be July the 14th. So July 14th, we will be here on a Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock Central Time. So don't forget it. So thank you for joining me on the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Show. I will see you next time. Peace, everybody. I'll see you soon.